Did you ever know that you're my hero? Let's talk about our inspirations today. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, I'm Laura and I write young adult fiction. In today's video, I kind of wanted to give credit or discuss a little bit the top 3 authors that really inspired me to, one, love, specifically for me, young adult fiction, and also inspired me to want to write young adult fiction in the future. I have read so much for so long, as most of us writers have. There are really 3 authors that really hooked me in early on and forever set my trajectory for loving and wanting to write YA. So let's get into my top 3 inspirational authors. Alright, coming in at number 3, we have Chbosky, who wrote The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now, I cannot tell you what this book has meant to me, not only as a young teen, but also as an adult as well. It really stands out to me as one of the top YA books of all time. Now, I first read it when I was about a sophomore in high school, so I was 15, and I was one of those angsty teens who was really struggling with figuring out who I was, what that meant. I knew I was different than other people. I was really into like alternative music, and I hung out with that whole crowd, the people that felt like we didn't fit in and we weren't understood by other people. And Chbosky really encapsulates that group of teens better than anyone. That book really just sort of like pulled me in. It dealt with trying to fit in, feeling different, wanting to be one of the group, dealing with pain, family issues, not knowing how to express yourself. It just was the most beautiful book I had ever read. And I waited. I wanted it to be a movie so long, and I waited and waited and waited. And then when it became a movie like a decade later, I went and saw it. I drove an hour to see it because it wasn't in all theaters. And I'm not even gonna lie, I cried through the entire movie. It just brought back so many of my feelings from high school, and I just felt like he really got it. He really got what it was like to be a teen, and it just meant so much to me. And then I eventually got to meet him, which was like, I like almost cried. I did cry later, but like got there, and he like wrote on my book and my copy of the DVD, "You are infinite." And it was just like one of the highlights of my life. That book really just changed things for me. I actually reread it again about 3 or 4 years ago, and it just took me back, and it just blew my mind all over again. It totally holds up. It is absolutely amazing. If you haven't read The Perks of Being a Wallflower, you have to read it. And I highly recommend that you give it to any young teen that you know in your life, because it just really, it spoke to me on a level that I don't think any book has ever spoken to me ever. And it just really made me feel not alone at a time when I felt like I really, really was. Now, the number 2 author who has affected my writing life tremendously is Francesca Lia Block. Now, specifically when I was a teen, the book that meant the most to me was her collection of novellas, which was Dangerous Angels. It was the Weetzie Bat books. You guys, again, this was another series where it was not like your typical teens. It was those who felt different, those who felt misunderstood, those who were creative, those who had pain, and just things that they were really going through. And it was just such a beautiful writing. Her writing blows my mind, how lyrical and beautiful it is. And so I was also a sophomore when I read this book, so I was 15, and I would read the book and I would listen to Weezer's Blue album, and I just felt like it completely like connected to that book. So whenever I hear anything from the Blue album, I always think of Weetzie Bat. And I mean, a lot of people that are my age were influenced by that book, and she just really like, she made me love writing. The way she could paint the most beautiful scenes. She made me fall in love with writing. She made me fall in love with LA. I always dreamed, I thought she was like the most magical woman. I read all of her books. The Weetzie Bat books were the most influential to me, but I Was a Teenage Fairy, Violet and Claire. I mean, she had a million books that I read back then, and I just love them all. They're like contemporary with magical elements, and they make LA seem like this magical magical place, and I really just someday wanted to go there and experience it. And I did live in LA for about 6 years, and it was just amazing. And the most amazing thing that happened in LA is while I was there, I actually got to take a writing class with Francesca in her home. There was only 5 of us in the class, and we met once a week in her living room, and she read my work and commented on it, and it was like the most surreal experience I've ever had in my entire life. And now we have this like relationship where, you know, she sends emails once in a while. We see each other at events. I mean, I don't see her as much now that I left LA, but you guys, I can't tell you, she has been a mentor, an inspiration. She's just the most beautiful person. She sees the world in such a magical way, and her books really, really reflect that. If you haven't read Francesca Lia Block, specifically her older stuff, like the Weetsy Bat books, which were Dangerous Angels and things like that, I highly, highly recommend them because they're just so, so beautiful. And I think the Weetsy Bat books are finally gonna get made into a movie. Fingers crossed. So, I will probably cry through all of that as well. All right, and the number 1 most influential writer to me, especially for young adult, was of course Anne M. Martin with the Babysitter Club's book. I think a lot of people my age also could say that this is true for them, but you guys, the Babysitter's Club completely changed the game for me. And what's really funny is I actually started reading the Babysitter's Club when I was in the 2nd grade. I was 7 years old, so I was way younger than the characters, and there were the Babysitter's Club little sisters who were more my age, but I didn't even read those until I read all the Babysitter's Club books, and I had no more and I wanted more, so then I went to Little Sister. Those books meant so much to me. That's what made me want to be a writer. I used to copy the words on a piece of paper from the books just to know what it felt like to write the stories. I loved all of the characters. They were different, they were diverse, they had different kinds of families, they went through the things that I felt like I went through, even though I was only 7 and I probably wasn't going through those things yet. But I love that they were episodic. That's the stuff that I'm obsessed with, you guys. I love episodic things. I love television shows that go on forever, book series that go on forever. I used to love soap operas, and so it really got me immersed in these characters, and I just fell in love with writing. I fell in love with characters, what books could do for you. The Babysitter's Club was basically everything to me. It was what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be. It made me want to write books. It made me love reading. And I know that Anne M. Martin didn't write all of the series. I think she stopped like around 35 or 36, but she still started that, and she changed the game. She really did. And I feel like that for a lot of people. That, I mean, I read other book series. I loved Sweet Valley Twins. I read some Boxcar Children. I read some things, but nothing compared to Babysitter's Club. And I adored it so much, and it meant so much to me, and I just devoured those books. Every Christmas, birthday, that's all I wanted was Babysitter Club book. And I read those for years and years, and I have been collecting them since then, and I always said if I had a daughter, I would want her to read them. I don't know if that's in the cards for us, but I still collect them because I love them so much. And if I ever get a niece or a little girl who's important to me in my life, I want her to read them because they just... they stand the test of time, guys. I even have some of the graphic novels now that have come out about them, and they're just the best books ever. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably read them too, and they changed the game. They were like the Hunger Games and Twilight of young adult books back then. So, I mean, we need another series like that, right? Like that, Sweet Valley Twins. I mean, we need something that young girls can anticipate and be excited for, you know, that are wholesome and deal with family issues. It was just, those books will forever be the #1 inspiration for me. Alright guys, well those are my top 3 YA authors that were my favorite writers and inspired me to want to become a YA writer myself. Now what about you? Were any of those authors, Stephen Chbosky, Francesca Lia Block, or Anne M. Martin, inspirational to you when you were a young teen or maybe even as an adult? If not, do you have other authors that were? Comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. I want to know what books inspired you, what books you were super into as a kid, like what authors were you like, this is the rock star of authors, because that's how I felt about Stephen and Francesca and Anne M. Martin. So I would love to hear from you guys and know who inspired you, and then maybe I can find some new books to read, because I'm always down for some new authors and some new books to read. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed hearing that and learning a little bit more about me, and I hope to hear a little bit more about you. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't yet, please be sure to hit subscribe. I do videos about about writing and books and all that jazz 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye!